Good evening. Tonight, we begin with economic shockwaves reverberating from the Midwest to Asia as the Trump administration launches a sweeping new trade war. The world is watching closely as the United States takes a bold and controversial step, sending ripples through every corner of the global economy. The centerpiece, an unprecedented 145% tariff on nearly all Chinese imports, has effectively frozen trade between the world's two largest economies. This move has rattled global markets, with investors and businesses scrambling to assess the long-term impact. The uncertainty is palpable and the stakes could not be higher. But the tariffs don't stop with China. Canada, Mexico, the EU and Brazil are all hit with steep new taxes, escalating the America First doctrine to unprecedented levels. Allies and trading partners alike are left reeling, as the administration signals it is willing to risk global backlash to protect American industries. Businesses are left in limbo, with long-standing supply chains upended and a federal court ruling many tariffs illegal, yet they remain in place pending appeal. Companies are forced to make tough decisions, with some facing bankruptcy and others desperately seeking alternative suppliers. The fallout is immediate. Companies like Michigan's Howard Miller Clockmaker are shutting down, unable to absorb the new costs. Workers across the country are facing layoffs, and entire communities are bracing for economic hardship. International leaders scramble to respond, with the EU delaying retaliation as they weigh their options and consult with allies on a coordinated response. Meanwhile, Brazil's President Lula is vowing economic independence, promising to shield his nation from the fallout and urging other developing countries to stand together. As of July 14, 2025, the global economic order is under siege, and the aftershocks for the American heartland are only beginning. The world now waits to see how this new era of economic conflict will reshape the future. In response to Trump's tariffs, China strikes back, targeting the heart of the American economy, agriculture. For decades, American farmers have relied on China as a top customer, shipping millions of tons of corn and other crops across the Pacific. Now, that relationship is under threat. Overnight, China cancels massive orders for U.S. corn, leaving shiploads stranded at ports and American farmers reeling from the sudden blow. The ripple effect is immediate. Grain sits unsold, and the uncertainty spreads through rural communities. Corn futures on the Chicago Board of Trade plummet, erasing hopes for a profitable year and exposing farmers to catastrophic losses. The market's reaction is swift and brutal, with prices tumbling to their lowest levels in years. Grain elevators overflow as the supply chain grinds to a halt, and the sudden surplus triggers a market crash. Storage facilities fill up, and farmers are left with nowhere to send their harvest. Even a tentative U.S.-China agreement in June fails to calm markets. The key tariffs remain, and trust is shattered. Negotiations stall, and both sides dig in, deepening the standoff. Chinese buyers, burned by U.S. policy shifts, are now seeking more reliable suppliers. Countries like Brazil and Argentina step in to fill the gap, eager to claim a share of the lucrative Chinese market. For American farmers, the message is clear. The gate to one of their largest markets has slammed shut. Many face tough choices: cut back production, lay off workers, or risk losing their farms altogether. The long-term damage is done. China is moving on, and the U.S. may never fully regain its place at the table. The global agricultural landscape is shifting, and America's dominance is no longer guaranteed. The trade war's impact is no longer theoretical. It's a daily crisis for America's agricultural sector. Families struggle to make ends meet, and the uncertainty weighs heavily on entire communities. The future of U.S. farm exports hangs in the balance, as farmers wait and hope for a resolution that may never come. The real pain of the trade war is felt far from Washington, in places where the land stretches for miles and the rhythms of life are tied to the soil. It's here, in the fields and farmhouses of rural America, that the consequences are most deeply personal and immediate. Generations of farmers, once proud global suppliers, now face record losses and mounting debt as corn prices collapse and bills pile up. The sense of pride in feeding the world is replaced by anxiety and sleepless nights. Cliff Heaton, a major Mississippi farmer, is forced to consider slashing his operation by 40%, a fate shared by thousands of others who see their life's work slipping away. The domino effect is brutal. Surplus grain floods local markets, prices crater, and even those not exporting to China are dragged down by the collapse. Soybean farmers, also hit by Chinese tariffs, join the crisis, and rural economies dependent on agriculture begin to unravel as jobs disappear and hope fades. Tractor dealerships, seed suppliers, and small-town businesses all suffer as farmers stop spending, creating a ripple effect that touches every corner of these communities. The fabric of rural communities is fraying, with the dream of passing down the family farm turning into a nightmare of foreclosure and forced auctions. For these farmers, the trade war is not a distant policy debate. It's an existential threat that shakes their identity and way of life. The uncertainty and fear are real, and the future has never looked more precarious. For many, the question is no longer how to survive the season, but whether they can survive at all. As the crisis deepens, the U.S. government steps in with a $10 billion aid package, hoping to keep farmers afloat. The subsidies are a lifeline, but many see them as a temporary fix, a band-aid on a bullet wound. The loss of export markets is an ongoing disaster, and government checks can't replace reliable customers like China. Farmers want to earn a living from the market, not from handouts that could vanish with a political shift. A May 2025 survey reveals a split. 70% of large producers hope tariffs will eventually strengthen U.S. agriculture, but 43% expect immediate financial pain. This is the heart of the conflict: long-term hope versus short-term survival. Farmers are asked to endure immense losses now for a future gain that's far from certain. Meanwhile, international competitors are seizing market share. The fear is real. By the time the trade war ends, America's customers may be gone for good. As the U.S. stumbles, Canada steps up, quietly filling the void left by rejected American corn. Chinese buyers, desperate for reliable supply, turn north, and Canadian farmers are transformed into premium global partners overnight. Multi-billion-dollar deals flow in, fueling a gold rush for Canada's corn industry and reshaping global trade. While U.S. farmers face layoffs and foreclosures, Canadians are expanding, upgrading, and planting more acres. The contrast is stark. U.S. protectionism has handed Canada a golden ticket. Every rejected American shipment is a Canadian sale, and the new trade routes may become permanent. Chinese buyers now value Canada's stability over America's volatility. The lesson is clear. In global trade, reliability wins. Canada is cashing in on the chaos, solidifying its role as a rising power in the corn market. The northern gold rush is real, and it's changing the agricultural map. Canada isn't the only winner. Brazil is also capitalizing on America's trade war. China, eager to diversify, turns to Brazil for soybeans and corn, fueling a massive expansion in Brazilian agriculture. Brazil has the capacity to convert 70 million acres of pasture into cropland, threatening U.S. dominance for decades to come. In April 2025, Brazil's corn exports soar 170% year over year, as American grain sits idle. Long-term contracts with China are funding Brazil's growth, shifting global supply chains from the Midwest to South America. Even as the U.S. slaps a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods, President Lula shrugs it off. Trade with China is the real prize. The U.S. focuses on punishment, Brazil focuses on production and sales. The result? Brazil is rapidly becoming a global agricultural superpower. The trade war's shockwaves extend far beyond agriculture, shaking the entire global economy. The European Union, hit with a 30% U.S. tariff, prepares $21 billion in retaliatory measures, but delays, hoping for negotiation. German automakers like Mercedes and Porsche see U.S. sales plunge, while a 50% copper tariff reroutes global shipments to China, raising costs for American manufacturers. Countries scramble for side deals. India and Vietnam negotiate lower tariffs, but the patchwork undermines global trade norms. The uncertainty is stalling the U.S. economy. The Federal Reserve holds rates steady, citing tariff-driven ambiguity. Treasury Secretary Bessent warns of a looming debt ceiling crisis, adding to market anxiety. The tariffs, meant to strengthen America, are fueling instability and driving allies to seek new partners. The global order is being reshaped, not by war, but by economic chaos. America's trading partners are hedging their bets, and the world is watching for the next move. As the dust settles, the winners and losers are clear. American farmers, once global leaders, are left with collapsed prices, lost markets, and a future dependent on government aid. The policies meant to protect them have backfired, severing vital trade relationships and ceding ground to competitors. Canada, by staying stable and ready, has seized a historic opportunity, enjoying record prices and demand. The Northern Gold Rush is no exaggeration. It's a fundamental shift in North American agriculture. The lesson in a globalized world: reliability and stability are the ultimate commodities. Canada has won this round of the trade war, not by fighting, but by being the dependable alternative America's customers needed.